Welcome to War Tech Talk, Eastern Circle's podcast on military technology innovation, its battlefield application in Ukraine, and geopolitical impact. I am Bogdan Kostyuk, analyst of Eastern Circle think tank in Paris. Today's episode is a little different. I'll be turning the tables and asking our president, Anastasia Shapochkina, and my colleague, Darina Potyuk, about an event they just attended, Defense Tech Valley, organized by Ukraine's Brave One initiative in Lviv. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Bogdan. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Let's start with you, Anastasia. Could you tell us a bit more about Brave One and how Eastern Circles came to be invited to this event?
Brave One is a state agency charged with supporting the development of Ukraine's deftech innovation. And it was launched by the Ministry of Digital Transformation. Its mission is to have robots replace people fighting on the front lines. To achieve it, Brave One is helping startups and SMEs to develop their ideas into products, find investors, identify growth opportunities, scale, and obtain certification, either NATO certification and codes or national certification. They also help companies pass compliance measures and so that they can qualify under due diligence. They connect them with foreign partners and investors and prepare them to be eligible to government tenders. Today, Brave One claims to be working with about 2,000 Ukrainian deftech startups and SMEs. The event, Defense Tech Valley, is this signature event of Brave One. And we can compare it potentially to Eurosatory, although, of course, Eurosatory is a much, much bigger event. But the ambition is to showcase Ukrainian producers.
And what about the role of Eastern Circles in it?
Yeah, so this time we were invited as a communication partner of this event to moderate a roundtable on integrating frontline feedback into technology development. So we had a very good possibility there to mix with both the military and Ukrainian and foreign developers and investors.
Now, Darina, from your point of view, what differentiates Defense Tech Valley from similar events in Europe, for example?
Yeah, so compared to last year's Defense Tech Valley held in Kyiv, this year's forum was visibly much more bigger, both in expo space and in the diversity of participants. Brave One counted over 5,000 participants from more than 50 countries. Massive turnout, global interest in a high-energy atmosphere. Well, the goal was to show the world's Ukraine's position as an innovation hub.
But what about the exhibitions? Because now we're only just starting to see news come out, and they look very impressive.
You're right. This wasn't the average tech fair. On display were aerial and ground drones, AI-powered systems, next-gen electronics, rocket tech, and more. Some really impressive hardware and software, a real glimpse into the future of warfare. And let's not forget the real stars, the startups. Brave One gathered multiple defense actors, innovators, the military, and investors. You could really feel the energy there. Everyone wanted to be the part of the next big thing. International investors understand that innovation is driven by the connection with the front line and often to Ukrainian defense companies. Because the end game is not about producing innovation, it's about producing the right innovation, the kind that meets the real needs of war, today and tomorrow.
I want to add to what Darina is saying. To me, Defense Tech Valley of 2025 also looked bigger and more diverse than a year ago. Bigger exhibition space allowed to show models of bigger weapons, such as underwater Toloka drone torpedo or the widely covered Flamingo missile, the developer of which is now working on a Ukrainian ballistic missile as well. Even positioning these items in the physical space right next to the low-cost, high strike rate, penoplast-fitted kamikaze and reconnaissance drones made a statement that Ukraine is not just about drones and EW systems. neither it is about to be overwhelmed by Russian capacity of centralized production. Instead, Ukrainian companies, old and new, are working to develop next-generation short, medium, and long strike capabilities, including missiles, for air, ground, and naval combat. Once the missiles are produced in sufficient numbers, they will reinforce Ukraine's capacity to disable critical Russian military infrastructure, from oil refineries supplying fuel to the Russian army to arms depots and military bases. Among drone developers, the topic of autonomy had two dimensions. On the one hand, these are swarms of autonomous drones capable of identifying, locking, and striking targets without a pilot. Swarmer, Art Systems, and the Fourth Law are among the most recognizable companies in this field. The other dimension of autonomy, which came up a lot in my conversations with developers, is the autonomy of production. This is especially relevant in relation to the traditional spare parts dependence of Ukrainian drone producers on China. More and more people are working to change that, replacing components, materials in wings and drone frame, simplifying and developing own motors to batteries to optics are part of the ongoing process. But some key elements remain hard to replace, such as magnets in drone motors. This is also true for Western manufacturers. Counter-drone systems, which actually covers a vast area of products, from protective nets to anti-drone systems, was another important part of the exhibit. Competing solutions are drone fighting drones versus small and cheaper missiles with appropriate seeker and targeting systems, which can match the speed and changing trajectory of Russian Geran and Shahed drones equipped with jet engines.
Anastasia, there hasn't been much news about the investment part of the summit. Who are the key investors in Ukraine you met? And what are they looking for? How has the Ukraine deftech ecosystem been evolving?
The investors' presence was felt with a prominent interest from the American and Scandinavian investors, which is not new. But I met also Asian and other European investors, including from the Netherlands, France, and Germany, and the Baltic states. Estonian missile developing company, for instance, has Ukrainians in its core team. Foreign investors, independent from their scale and the type of investment they are ready for, perceive Ukraine as an emerging force in new defense technologies, while Ukrainian producers' objective is to show that Ukraine is competitive in a wider array of tech than is visible on the surface. Experienced Western investors know, for example, that not all investment-worthy companies will partake in an expo. From my conversations at the forum, the Ukrainian defense ecosystem, the second question, right, is evolving into bodies which mirror those existing in the West. And this is a natural progression. The producers are uniting in associations to lobby for certain regulatory aspects in Ukraine and to improve representation abroad. The producers also form clusters, another phenomena existing in the West, to solve practical problems with human resources or hiring, in addition to also pushing for legal changes. Iron Cluster in Lviv is an example of such a body. And finally, Ukraine has seen the emergence of national accelerators, which help meet startup needs in network building, finding investors, preparing for pitch presentations, and training them to run their new businesses by training in basic accounting and business development.
Darina, during the forum, which startups stood out to you most and what technologies are they developing? And can you talk a little bit more? What are the investment trends in Ukrainian DevTech?
Yeah, of course. So speaking of investors, there were over 300 investors at Defense Tech Valley, and they weren't just browsing there. Real deals were happening. For example, over 100 million was announced at the end of the forum to be invested in the Ukrainian defense tech. But I'd like to share one important insight of ours. There is still a challenge when it comes to intellectual property rights and the understanding of Ukraine's role in the global defense ecosystem, especially within Europe. We've heard the feedback from both investors and European defense industry players. There is a strong willingness to collaborate with Ukrainian companies, but often under the condition of integrating them into national defense ecosystems, including ownership of IP and production control.
Darina, since Brave One led to concrete investments, not just conversations, can you walk us through the most significant deals that came out of it?
So the first one is and UNC Capital from the Netherlands invested 20 million to scale promising defense startups in Ukraine. Then it's Verne Capital from Germany invested 25 million in Ukrainian deftech. The third one is Varangian's fund out of Sweden, also closed the deal there. And the last one is European fund Oedipus Inc., which is working on a collaboration with Ukrainian defense tech companies. According to Ukraine's first deputy prime minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, 90 million has been invested in Ukrainian defense tech since 2024, with an average per company investment growing from $300,000 to $1 million.
As we are talking here not only about money and investments, we are talking about innovation trends as well. And I have a question for both of you guys. You have attended a lot of discussions and side events at the forum. So what do you see as the main innovation trends in technologies?
So about the main innovation trends, to share the first impression for me was that, of course, AI remains very much in the heart of the discussion. And they're listening to panels and talking to producers. There are two schools of thought, and the one is more optimistic, claiming that AI, this or that company or their company developed already or is developing or is very close to developing AI tools which would allow navigation of numerous drones with communication capability, striking capability, surveillance capability without a pilot. And this is a real important problem to solve for Ukraine, because pilots means training, pilots means people, and this is something Ukraine has a deficit of. And then the other school of thought claimed that, AI, the stated current present advantages of AI on the battlefield are over-exaggerated, and a lot of work has to be done. So this is about AI. And then a big dominating theme was counter-drone systems, from EW systems, and there the equipment presented, especially raised for a great number of frequencies, for example, to cover when it gets to the EW equipment. And then the kind of debate which caught my eye was between the producers of counter-drone systems based on other drones, hunting so defensive so-called drones, hunting offensive drones, let's call it like this, or the more classical systems like smaller rockets or smaller missiles, shooting down, identifying, locking the target, and then pursuing the target until shooting it down. And these are also complex systems to develop, and there are fewer of them. And this seems like it's a debate, right, for the procurement prioritization, for investments, struggle for the fighting for investment, and also a debate as for the image, right, of Ukraine on the international scene, because there are many drone producers who can have this or that level of success, and there are few missile producers of any level of success. And getting back to missiles, I want to say that for me, the kind of innovation, which was physical in your face compared to last year, was in the maritime domain. The Toluca torpedo, which was exhibited, it isn't yet I understood that it isn't yet operational, but it hopefully will soon be operational. And that shows you the different levels of progress in Ukrainian maritime innovation and development, because they have, on the national, at least on the national scale, last year they have exhibited different types of drones, river drones, sea drones, Magura was exhibited, and it's one level of innovation if you can have a small drone with explosive navigating a river, or a different level if you can have a big drone with explosive able to take out a massive ship, and a still different level if you have underwater torpedo. And this to me these are the trends which basically I have identified.
Thank you very much. To tell you the truth, I was actually surprised as well with this Toloka torpedo, because I followed the news and I just saw a huge torpedo on the exhibition. As I understood as well, it's not like on a scale up production yet. And it's interesting for me, for example, to follow further how this torpedo can be used in the Russian-Ukraine war. And getting back to the arena, I'm curious, what does Ukraine's deftech scene stand overall right now?
So, according to a report by Amulfar and BDRO, Ukrainian companies produce the most UAVs, UAV components, robotic systems, and electronic warfare. The less common defense technologies, these are aviation tech, armored vehicles, and situational awareness platforms. But all of that could shift very fast, especially with this new wave of investment and government support. And right after the end of the forum, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky announced on September 19th that Ukraine is launching 3 new export platforms in the next 2 weeks. These platforms are designed to streamline defense exports and partner the engagement. One focused on the US, another on Europe, and the third one on other strategic global partners, basically anyone who is either supporting Ukraine or interested in its defense tech. The opening of weapons export is a long-awaited announcement by investors and is a first step towards Ukraine's comeback to the international defense markets with new technology, allowing Ukraine producers to scale by attracting more partners and investors. And that brings us to a key question. What role can Ukrainian companies play in the European defense ecosystem, and under what conditions? Will big European defense producers allow Ukrainians into their market, or will they resist the emergence of a competitor along the good enough and cheaper category by creating barriers to entry?
I hope this initiative will be well executed, as the talks about it were circulated for a couple of years already. I have been working on and researching this topic for some time, and the more I digged, the more ridiculous the current state of play appeared to me. To give you a flavor of the situation, in 2024, Ukrainian military complex was capable of producing weapons worth $20 billion, while the state can only buy for $6 billion. Of course, there are a lot of concerns in letting the producers export their weapons while asking the Western countries to provide us some. But this is the economy. This is how economy works. I believe that this overdue issue of limited export can be implemented.
And I don't think that the weapons Ukraine is asking foreign producers to give or to sell are the same that the weapons Ukraine will be able to export.
Exactly.
It will also not necessarily start exporting to Western countries where Western producers are dominating the market, not necessarily going to be exporting the same weapons because, of course, this is the whole, this is a controlled market. But indeed, the whole point of Defense Tech Valley seemed to be to show that Ukraine ambitions to carve out a space for itself in the international defense market. Allowing exports is the missing piece of the puzzle for foreign investors in Ukrainian defense companies' business models. However, as Darina mentioned, while foreign investors need an export-oriented model to reassure return on investment from Ukrainian producers, Western defense manufacturers, some of which are partnering with Ukraine, will not be thrilled to see a new competitor emerge.
Okay, thank you guys for sharing your insights. I am sure it was a valuable experience for both of you, and I look forward to seeing you in Paris soon.
Thank you, Bogdan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bogdan.
This podcast was prepared by Darina Marina Patyuk, Bogdan Kostyuk, editing by Anastasia Shapachkina, production by Elitsa Gadeva.